Hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we're talking about forgiveness, something really important, something we all need to do in our lives because we end up holding on to this emotional conglomeration of chaos revolving around someone that we've interacted with, a relationship, a friend, or a coworker, a parent, typically, that caused us harm growing up or currently in our lives. How do we move past this? And this conglomeration of chaos is a host of snakes. It's like what Carl Jung would symbolize as round chaos, meaning the thing that glimmers, the thing that calls forth to you, that needs your attention. And then once you attain it, you're the seeker, right? Like Harry Potter obtaining the snitch. Once you obtain it, you open up the round chaos and deal with the many snakes that it holds. And all these snakes, as you're going to find out when you forgive someone, it's no joke, and there's many snakes lurking in there. And so, that's the essence of this video. How do you forgive somebody? And I'm going to give you some strategies, so stay tuned, be present with me here until the end of the video, because this is a big one, okay? So growing up, you might have been hurt, betrayed, lied to by a family member. We have all been there. It's never a clear-cut path, and especially those toxic relationships that you wind yourself in, they become familiar, they become your regular, your routine. But a lot of people don't want to move beyond the relationship because what happens? They're met with the unknown and fear. What if I never find anyone else? What if I'm not good enough for anyone else? What if I'm not going to get the attention I need from anyone if I'm alone? I'm not going to get the gratification from anyone if I'm alone. And so there's a lot of snakes lurking in the unknown of leaving a relationship you know deep down is not working, it's toxic, it's causing you so much distress, but it's familiar, even though it's rocky, even though there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of fighting, it's not working at all. It's the fact that you remain consistent. It's a sign that you just want to stay in what's familiar to you. A lot of people don't want to look to their inadequacies, then they want to blame all women or they want to blame all men for their pain and suffering. But very few of us actually turn to ourselves, and that's where true growth lies. That's where a true relationship lies, is when you get into a fight. And Jordan Peterson laid this out beautifully. He said, when you fight with your partner, you have to go into a different room and sit with yourself and go, is there any way I contributed to this fight? Even if it's 1%, even if it's 5%, is there some sort of contribution? Because a tyranny is co-created, meaning the state, you can say the state is tyrannical, but actually it's co-created by the people. It takes you yourself, you're a co-creation, and that's what created Nazi Germany. That's what created the Soviet Union. We all have snakes within our own hearts. We all have choices to make. We all have to be awake enough to learn, where am I stepping next in my goal-directed behavior? And so we can contribute to a toxic relationship, and this is what healed me from my past relationship, which was very toxic. What helped me heal, more importantly, out of everything, was the fact that I sat with myself and I was like, I contributed a lot to this relationship. No wonder she did that to me, because I was a delinquent. I didn't have any responsibilities. I didn't want to take on any responsibilities. It's not that I didn't have responsibilities. I just chose to live in this Peter Pan type lifestyle and neglect the true values of a relationship. I wanted to just hang around my dopey friends and smoke weed and, just live life whimsically. But she saw that, and so it caused a lot of problems, and I thought that was just how one's supposed to live, and I was living in this my own sphere of distorted beliefs and values, and she was unconsciously very unsettled by that. So once I looked towards my actions, everything changed for me. I was like, I was a bad person, and it's horrifying, and it's a very unsettling experience to go down that route, but one needs to in order to heal. because you can tyrannize yourself. Because I was a tyrant over myself. I needed to meet certain expectations every single day. And then I was controlling her. I wanted her to meet my expectations every day. And when things didn't go my way, it was aggression, right? That's the sign of an inner tyrant, and it expresses itself outside as well. And she certainly felt that, I'm sure. And so that's how we begin the healing process, is to say, well, I got something to learn from this experience, even if it's when you were a child. Because you can ask yourself, well, hey, or me, you can ask, hey, Brad, how can I look to my young self, my childhood self, and say, well, how did I contribute to my parents behaving in that way? And I say, that's a great question. But what you can do is to look at yourself as a young, naive person, childlike person, because we tend to view ourselves through that childhood frame nowadays, or that memory through a childhood frame. But it's important to separate yourself and say, well, you were a child, and that child was just looking up to your parents and trusting in what they were saying, trusting in their authority figures, because a part of childhood development is to blend in with the group, is to not just to blend in with your friends, but to trust in the authority figures around you. Because what do you know? You're just a child. You're just developing. What else is there to say? And so, but when you're betrayed, when you're lied to, when there's fighting, it opens your eyes at an early age to the realities of existence. It's unsettling because you don't know how to deal with that, and you compartmentalize and you retreat and you hold on to this for the rest of your life, not knowing how to actually contend with that. And so now we're talking about that. How do you contend with all of that betrayal, that lying, that deceit that you experienced? The first thing is, I highly recommend, is to write a letter to one of the people that caused you harm emotionally or physically, or both. So write it out. Write all your emotions out on paper. Write how you feel. Write anything that comes to your mind. That you were a child, and how could you do that to a child? I feel this, and it's going to be a very unsettling experience, and that's a sign of healing, by the way. You cry and you go through the pain of that retelling of the story. That's the hard part. But on the other side of this is true growth. Confronting what you don't want to confront is what heals, like Carl Jung says. So you write that out. Then I want you to write out what you learned from the experience. And more specifically, how can you perceive this experience as a benefit to you now? So when I say what you learned, I want you to put yourself in their shoes. You study the person that abused you. And then what Goggins found out from his father, who beat him senselessly as a child, it was absolutely brutal, to say the least. What he did was he looked to his father and he studied his father, and he was like, well, his father beat him as a child, and it's generational. It's coming back down to me. He's only acting out the beliefs and values that he learned from his parents. Understanding your parents' parents is really useful too. Understanding the other person that betrayed you, your spouse, your partner, is important too. What circumstance do I have to be in to do that to someone else? Well, I would have to be really unconscious in nature and, a puppet to my overall expectations and emotions, desires, impulses, right? Just a complete unconscious, automized person just trying to fulfill needs. That's what a tyrant is, just trying to fulfill desires, right? No matter what the cost is. This will make you awake and more wise to the realities of life, because within the round chaos of what happened to you, you have to study all angles. You're going to have to study good and evil. What made someone do that to you? You're going to have to look towards them. How were they when they were apparent to you? Well, they were always disturbed. They were always coping with weed, marijuana, medications. Write out everything that they were doing. Write out their behaviors, what they were telling you, what hurt you the most. emotionally, physically. That'll help release this trauma. And then importantly, remember, how is what happened to you beneficial to you? Because the reason why you're holding on to it is so that you don't fall into the same circumstance again in the future. But when you flesh it out, and you'll see that this is actually a benefit to me, because now I am wise enough to not wind up in that situation as much as I was in, right? Now I'm more clear of the behaviors, because what also Goggins said was he became a master at studying people. He knew where certain actions take people, right? If you come into contact with somebody and they're acting in a certain way, Goggins knows, like, hey, I recognize those features because I myself will witness my dad acting out those features. So spend time with yourself, carefully go over this. You will feel really terrible going through all of this initially, maybe in the first week, but it has a twofold effect. After that, you start to heal, and it's like a huge giant weight lifting off your shoulders. And after you write this all down, I want you to burn it in a burn bowl. I highly recommend that. It's a sign of release. It's a sign of moving past your past. And lastly, rise above anxiety. I'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this community. Please comment below. Also, give this a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because then you'll be the first to know whenever I release a new video.